Hello and welcome to another episode of The Living Philosophy. In today's episode I want to continue the Lord of the Rings theme from the previous video on elves and men. But this time I want to talk about the curious case of Bilbo Baggins. Bilbo Baggins is of course the lovable scamp that is the main character in The Hobbit, and he is the uncle of the main character in The Lord of the Rings, Frodo Baggins. Bilbo is a mirror of the human condition as a whole, as the inner tug between the hero and the home bird who doesn't ever want to leave, and how that conflict runs down the center of every heart. And the way I want to explore this is by reading from Tolkien's The Hobbit, where he describes the parentage of Bilbo and the two halves of that side. So I'm just going to read through Tolkien's passage on this, and then I'm going to just unpack that a little bit and see what it means for all of us, for you and I. This hobbit was a very well-to-do hobbit, and his name was Baggins. The Bagginses had lived in the neighbourhood of the hill for time out of mind, and people considered them very respectable, not only because most of them were rich, but also because they never had any adventures or did anything unexpected. You could tell what a Baggins would say on any question without the bother of asking him. This is a story of how a Baggins had an adventure and found himself doing and saying things altogether unexpected. He may have lost the neighbours' respect, but he gained, well, you will see whether he gained anything in the end. The mother of our particular hobbit was the famous Belladonna Took, one of the three remarkable daughters of the old Took, head of the hobbits who lived across the water, the small river that ran at the foot of the hill. It was often said, in other families, that long ago one of the Took ancestors must have taken a fairy wife. That was, of course, absurd, but certainly there was still something not entirely hobbit-like about them, and once in a while the members of the Took clan would go and have adventures. They discreetly disappeared, and the family hushed it up, but the fact remained that the Tooks were not as respectable as the Bagginses, though they were undoubtedly richer. Not that Belladonna Took ever had any adventures after she became Mrs. Bungo Baggins. Still, it is probable that Bilbo, her only son, although he looked and behaved exactly like a second edition of his solid and comfortable father, got something a bit queer in his make-up from the Took side, something that only waited for a chance to come out. The chance never arrived until Bilbo Baggins was grown up, being about 50 years old or so, and living in the beautiful hobbit hole built by his father. So that is Tolkien's description of Bilbo's parentage, and you can see there's already a tension within Bilbo between the slightly fey lunacy of the Baggins side, or of the Took side of things, and the lover of the home hearth and the comfort of home and no adventures and just sitting around with friends enjoying food. That's the life of the Baggins. So you've got this conflict between the call of the hero, the Tooks looking to go off on adventures, going a bit mad, and then you've got the you know what to expect, the status quo upholders that is the Baggins. And I believe that this is a conflict that every one of us knows. And you can see that the backdrop of the Hobbit world is do not go on adventures, that there's a social reprehension, inhibition against it. I feel like this is something we can all relate to. Certainly it's a core thing of every human being, and the phrase "the grass is always greener" comes to mind, because when you're off on an adventure and you're living life to the fullest, you're thinking about home, and you're thinking about being comfortable and being back where the living's easy, and you dream of the mundane things. When you enter chaos and when everything is in upheaval, you think back to like the simpler days, and that's just to be expected. And then when life gets a bit too mundane and a bit too boring or commonplace or routine, then you start to think of adventures. And so you see the Took side coming out when you're living like a Baggins, and the Baggins side come out when you're living like a Took. And I think that that's a really interesting core psychology to put in Bilbo Baggins as the main character in The Hobbit. I think it was a beautiful touch by Tolkien. So I hope you've enjoyed this map over between the psychology of Bilbo Baggins and the rest of us. And if you have, please subscribe if you haven't already. And I'd love to hear from you down in the comments section. And give us a thumbs up as well while you're at it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.